Hi everyone, it's Sandy, and today I'm sharing with you guys my most disappointing books that I've read in 2015. I'm filming this video a little bit later in January because I had a lot of videos that I planned out to upload in the beginning of January, so this video is coming out a bit late, but you know, whatever. I also don't own a majority of the books that I'm mentioning because I either A, got rid of those books, or B, checked it out from the library in the first place because I was scared that I wasn't going to like them, and that was a really good idea because I would have been really upset if I spent money on a book only to end up disliking it. These books aren't all published in 2015, some are, but these are just the books that I've read in 2015 and were disappointed in. And these books aren't in any particular order. The first book that I was disappointed in was The Infinite Sea by Rick Yancey. This is the second book in the Fifth Wave trilogy. I read this book towards the beginning of 2015 and I remembered having a really difficult time getting into the story. Even though I loved the characters, I felt super disconnected from them and the world itself. And I was also just kind of confused as to what was going on. I did end up giving this book a 3 out of 5 stars, so it wasn't a completely terrible rating, but it wasn't the rating that I wanted going into it. The next book is Across the Universe by Beth Revis. This book was on my TBR for the longest time, and when I finally picked it up, I was just really close to DNFing it, but I decided to push through. The world was just really weird in my opinion. This book just wasn't for me. It was confusing. I did like the mystery aspect in this book, but overall I was pretty disappointed, and I gave it a 2 out of 5 stars. The next book is a very popular one, and that is The Wrath and the Dawn by Renee Ahdieh. I was so disappointed in this book, and I know many people love it. I thought the plot was really interesting, but I hated the romance, and the romance played such a huge part in this book in my opinion. I thought the romance was completely insta-love, and it just really bothered me that the main character had intentions of wanting to kill the king, and she ends up falling for him within a few days of meeting him, and I'm just like, right now, I'm unsure whether or not I'll continue the trilogy, but I haven't gotten rid of this book yet, mainly because I got it signed and personalized by the author. I probably will end up picking up the second book just because I want to know what happens next. There is a bit of a magical element in this book. It played a very small part, but I'm interested to seeing where that goes. I will not be purchasing the second book. If it ends up being available at the library, I will definitely check it out. I gave this book a 2 out of 5 stars. The next book is Breakable by Tamara Weber. This is the companion book to Easy. This is basically Easy told in the guy's perspective, also with some addition of his past. Companion books just really aren't my type of books. I end up getting really disappointed. The original story is always better than the companion book in my opinion. I loved Easy. It's one of my favorite books, but this one just wasn't. I gave it a 3 out of 5 stars, so it's not a bad rating, but I was just really disappointed in it. The next book is Avalon by Mindy Arnett. I thought the plot of this book was really interesting. It follows a group of people who are trying to find this spaceship. There isn't anything like specific that I disliked about it. I did really enjoy the middle part of the book and how it ended, but when I was reading it, I just found myself to be reading it just so I can be finished with it, and I just didn't really like the characters or the writing. I ended up giving this book a 2 out of 5 stars. The next book is probably my most disappointing book in 2015, and that is Red Rising by Pierce Brown. I went into it with no expectation. Just within the first chapter, I was just like, oh my god, I am not gonna like this book, and I just completely pushed through it. The main thing I didn't like about this book was the writing. It was so confusing. There was a lot of new terminology that really wasn't explained in my opinion. I had a really hard time following what was happening, and I was just so confused throughout this entire book. So not only was it confusing, but the book was so slow. This book just was not my cup of tea. I gave this book a 1 out of 5 stars. The next book is a book that I'm really sad to say is a disappointing book, but it is Never Always Sometimes by Adia Al-Saeed. If you watched my favorite books of 2015, I mentioned Let's Get Lost by the same author, and I absolutely love that book, but this book I was just so disappointed in. And because I really loved the first book, I had high expectations going into this book. The premise of this book revolves around two best friends, and they're trying to complete a lot of things on their never list, which is basically a list of things that they swear to never do in high school. Some of the things in this book was just really unrealistic, and I didn't like some of the choices that the characters made. I gave this book a 3 out of 5 stars. While there were things that I did enjoy, it was pretty disappointing because I just had high expectations for it. The next book is The Darkest Part of the Forest by Holly Black, and I've come to learn that Holly Black isn't an author that I should be reading from. I read The Coldest Girl in Cold Town about a year ago, and I thought that book was alright, and then I read this book and I thought it was alright as well. With Holly Black, I just don't really like her writing and the characters. I don't hate the characters in her books, but I don't really like them either, so I'm kind of in between. 2015, and I feel like characters are such important parts of a story, and if I don't like a character, then I end up being disappointed in the story, if that makes sense. I give this book a 3 out of 5 stars. Again, not too bad of a rating, just wasn't what I wanted. The next disappointing book is The Girl on the Train by Paula Hawkins. I think one reason why I was disappointed in this book was because I picked it up right after I read Gone Girl. And I'm sure you guys have heard that The Girl on the Train has been compared to Gone Girl, so I think that was like my #1 mistake when reading this book. I really enjoyed Gone Girl. I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars, so I was expecting some mind-blowing things in The Girl on the Train, and then when everything was revealed, it just kind of fell flat for me because I was just like, oh, that's it? I was just expecting a lot more with the ending. I ended up giving it a 3 out of 5 stars. The next book is The Accident Season by Maura Fowley Doyle. This book revolves around a family who has an accident season every October where they all get involved in accidents and they're all getting hurt around that time of the year. I thought the premise of it was so intriguing that I really wanted to know why everything was happening, and when that was revealed, I was just confused and disappointed. I just felt really underwhelmed by the story. I was expecting a lot of crazy things to happen, and I just was disappointed that not a lot of crazy things happened. And there were also some chapters where the author was using a bunch of metaphors to describe some of the characters and what was going on, and I just wasn't a fan of that type of writing in this book. I ended up giving it a 3 out of 5 stars. My memory card died, so I had to change it, and then I accidentally knocked over the tripod, so the camera angle has completely changed. But anyways, my last disappointing book of 2015 is Sweet Temptations by Wendy Higgins. The Sweet Trilogy is a trilogy that I've really enjoyed. This book is basically the first 3 books in Kaiden's perspective. And like I mentioned when I talked about Breakable, these types of books just aren't my thing. Going into this book, I wasn't expecting to dislike it. I was expecting to think it was okay, but I was just really disappointed because I just felt this book was so choppy, especially since it's 3 books combined into one. I still like Kaiden's character, but I just didn't like this book. So I gave this book a 2 out of 5 stars. Those are all of my disappointing books of 2015. Let me know if you have any similar disappointing books that I have, because I don't want to feel alone. Thank you for watching this video, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!